Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today as we dive into the exciting world of quick commerce. In today's webinar, we will discuss why quick commerce is becoming the next big thing in retail and how it works, and explore both the opportunities and challenges of this sector. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to understand what quick commerce actually is. See, imagine this. You have guests at home, and just as you are about to make tea or coffee, you realize you have run out of milk, sugar, or something else, right? So now in a traditional setting, what would you have done? You would either run to your nearest Kirana store, quickly grab whatever you need, or maybe you would have had to borrow from a neighbor. But now there is a third option, that is quick commerce. Their goal is to deliver these essentials items to your doorstep at record speed, sometimes in less than 10 minutes. So instead of leaving your guest, all it takes is a few taps on your phone, and the items you need are on their way to you. So quick commerce is all about convenience and speed. Now that we have introduced what quick commerce is, let's take a step back and look at the broader retail landscape in India. Okay. As we can see here, the evolution started with traditional mom and pop stores, which are small family owned shops that have been the backbone of Indian retail for decades. But then came modern trade formats which introduced large retail outlets like DMart, Big Bazaar, etc. Right. Following this, we saw the rise of quick commerce platforms like Amazon and Flipkart, which brought online shopping to the mainstream in the country, right? But as consumer expectations evolved, we moved towards slotted delivery, which always allows customers to choose specific delivery times. And now we are in the age of quick commerce, where essentials can be delivered to your doorstep within just 10 to 20 minutes. Now, all these formats coexist and have a use case, but the exact proportion and market share of each format, I think it's still evolving and something to watch out for. I think we have to wait and see how it evolves, right? So now to understand where quick commerce fits into the Indian retail ecosystem, let's look at the market. Currently valued at around $950 to $980 billion in 2023, and it's expected to grow to $1,550 billion by 2028, especially driven by urban demand for convenience and efficiency. Now, grocery leads with 61% of the market. But if you see other sectors like fashion, electronics, and personal care are also growing. Traditionally, 80% of this market has been unorganized. So struggling with fragmented supply chains or limited variety, which now doesn't meet demands, right? So I think this is where retail has stepped up, now covering about 40% in India's top cities, like offering better product selection and also standardized pricing, right? Online retail is also rising, driven by the demand for doorstep convenience. Though its potential in India remains untapped compared to the US or China, right? So now here's where quick commerce comes into the picture. It is carving out its own niche by focusing on ultra fast deliveries. Now, from the retail market of $980 billion, let's zoom in on the potential that quick commerce has within this vast space, right? So when we look at factors like geographic feasibility, um, populous cities, customer affluence, and also the business feasibility, the total TAM or addressable market for quick commerce is estimated to be around $45 billion in India. This can be a huge opportunity. In fact, if you can see, it can be more diverse than the food delivery market, for which the TAM is about $27 billion. So this puts quick commerce in a very, very strong position as a major player in this growing industry, right? So now let's take a step back and think about how we got here. I mean, as you all know, the pandemic really accelerated the growth of e-commerce and led to the start of quick commerce. Over the past 4 years, this sector has boomed, uh, adapting to new consumer habits like that emerged during lockdowns. Since I think 2021, we have seen the quick commerce market in India grow by more than 10 times. Uh, GMV, that is nothing but gross merchandising value, has reached around $3.3 billion in FY24, right? And this demand is only rising, showing that people have some kind of acceptance, or they have accepted uh, the flexibility and the speed that quick commerce is offering to all the consumers, right? So where is quick commerce headed? Well, there's enough evidence that quick commerce will maintain its momentum in the near future, right? In some reports, Deloitte projected that the market's GMV could reach $40 billion by 2030. That means we are looking at a CAGR or compounding growth of around 40-45% over the next 5 to 6 years. So that's pretty interesting, right? And another interesting fact, if you see in the graph here, quick commerce has already reached more than 50% of the size of the online food delivery market. And they have done this in less than 5 years, to be 4 years to be precise, right? It can soon, I think, maybe outgrow the online food delivery market. And also, they are working towards disrupting the traditional e-commerce space also. So very interesting to watch what plays out here. Now, let's look at the major players in this sector. At the top, we have Blinkit, previously known as Grofers, and then Zomato bought them out. Currently, they hold 39% of the market. Next is Swiggy Instamart with 37%. And then we have Zepto with 20%. Together, these three, I think, make up the majority of the market, right? While others like Big Basket Now or Dunzo Daily, etc., they share a very small slice of the market, right? So, looking ahead, we are also expecting companies like Jio, Flipkart, Ola, which has changed its name to Ola Consumer now, and Amazon to grow their services, which will bring even more competition into this space. So now let's take a look at some of the key performance indicators in quick commerce. I've shown the data here for Swiggy and Blinkit. That's Zomato. First, let's see the gross order value, or GOV, on your left. GOV is nothing but representation of the total value of all orders placed on these platforms before cancellations and returns, right? For both Instamart and Blinkit. In FY23, Instamart had a GOV of approximately 5,100 crores, while Blinkit led with 6,450 crores. Moving into FY24, Instamart saw significant growth, reaching 8,000 crores, while Blinkit almost doubled to 4,460 crores. What's especially impressive is that in just the first quarter, or FY25, Blinkit's GOV reached 4,900 crores and Instamart's hit 2,720, 725 crores. Now, this growth indicates that both platforms are up for substantial year-on-year expansion, right? So on your right, we have the AOV, average order value, which represents the average amount spent per order on these platforms. In FY23, Blinkit had a higher AOV at 541 compared to Instamart at 398. Now, this gap reflects Blinkit's focus on a broader mix of products, like including non-grocery items also, while Instamart leans more towards grocery essentials. Now, moving into FY24 and the Q1 of FY25, we see AOVs continuing to rise, with Blinkit reaching close to 625 and Instamart at 487. Now, this increase shows that consumers are spending more per order, and as these platforms expand their product categories. Now here, let's take a look at take rates on your left side, which represent the percentage of each transaction that the platform retains as revenue, including fees and commissions. In FY23, if you see, Blinkit had a take rate of 16.5%, while Instamart was at 10.69. But by FY24, both platforms saw an increase, with Blinkit reaching around 18.46 and Instamart rising to almost 13.50%. Now, in Q1 of FY25, Blinkit's take rate further increased to 19.313% and Instamart to 14.81%. Right? The growth in take rates, this growth in take rate is partly due to added convenience fees, advertising revenues, and the platform's ability, to negotiate better terms with the brands, right? And on the right, we are looking at monthly transacting users, which indicate the number of unique users making transactions each month on these platforms, right? So if you see again in FY23, Instamart led with 3.2 million MTUs compared to Blinkit at 2.95 million. And in Q1 of FY25, Blinkit continued its lead, uh, reaching 7.6 million, while Instamart had 5.24. Now, this growth in MTU for Blinkit clearly highlights strategy in attracting a larger and active user base over the past 1.5 years, right? So now next, uh, this chart shows the monthly order frequency, which is nothing but the average number of orders placed by each monthly transacting user within that month. So in FY23, both Blinkit and Instamart had a similar MOF, around 3.35 to 3.36 orders per user. But by FY24, we see a very slight increase with Instamart at 3.45. And in Q1 of FY25, Instamart moved slightly ahead with 3.56 orders per user, while Blinkit remained at 3.45. This consistency in order frequency highlights steady engagement, uh, with users making around 3 to 4 transactions each month on these platforms, right? So that's pretty good for the platforms. And on the right, if you see, this chart highlights the average orders fulfilled per day per dark store. Again, here, if you see in FY23, Blinkit average around 922 orders per day per store, increasing to 1370 orders in Q1 of FY25, whereas Instamart handled 765 orders per day in FY23, uh, reaching 1060 in Q1 of FY25. Now, this metric is crucial uh, as it reflects nothing but the operational efficiency and the profitability of each dark store. We will see that in the coming slides, how this order helps in the profitability, right? And higher fulfillment rates also indicate better utilization and stronger per unit economics. Now, this chart shows the total number of dark stores for the 3 major quick commerce players and their future expansion plans. So, in Q1 FY25, Blinkit had around 639 or 640 dark stores, and they have given a target to reach, 2,000 dark stores by FY26. So that's a pretty sharp jump, almost 3 to 4 times, right? Whereas Instamart is currently at around 581 stores, and they plan to grow incrementally. They are not as aggressive as Blinkit. Meanwhile, Zepto had around 350 stores in FY24, right? So this clearly shows this rapid of dark stores clearly shows the high demand uh, and the competitive push that we are seeing in this space, right? So, what are the changes in consumer behavior that's driving this growth and rapid expansion that we are seeing in the quick commerce space, right? So first, about 70% of urban spending is spontaneous. That means people often buy things on the spot, and especially smaller items, right? There's a strong need it now mentality, like particularly among younger consumers, right? And with traffic, parking issues, and the hassle of going to big supermarkets, I think quick commerce provides a faster and a easier solution. It also offers more variety than local kirana stores. I think they have more than 6,000, 6,500 SKUs to choose from, plus discounts and special offers that local shops can't match. Another driver is our cultural preference for fresh foods and the fact that many households have limited storage space also, right? So people prefer sometimes buying in smaller quantities and more frequently, right? And all this quick commerce, they have round the clock availability, and that's another big plus for them, right? I mean, you can order in the late nights also, and things like that, right? Now, quick commerce also provides after purchase services like easy returns and reliable support, right? And finally, I think I spoke about this, like the pandemic gave a huge boost to quick commerce with people turning to digital platforms for essentials and increasing adoption across this tier one cities. So that's, I think, some of the reasons why we are seeing that rapid expansion, the consumer trends changing. So now let's move on to the factors that is driving the growth of this quick commerce, right? So I think one big factor is the rise in monthly transacting users. I think we saw in the slides earlier, monthly transacting users are growing over 40%. I think in FY24, they grew over 40%, right? Young consumers, Gen Z and millennials, right? Especially in cities like Bangalore, Delhi, NCR, or Mumbai, are leading this trend. Uh, as users get more comfortable, they are ordering more often. In fact, the monthly order frequency jumped from 4.5 in FY21 to almost 6 in FY24. So that's almost 30-40% jump in 3-4 years, right? Now, there's a very interesting fun fact. Uh, it was there in Zomato's AR also. I think a Blinkit customer in Ahmedabad placed over 2,650 orders in FY24. I mean, that's one order every 3-4 hours, every single day. I mean, this just shows how strong the habit has become for some users. And it's not just the frequency of orders that's increasing. I think AOVs are also going up, right? In FY24, as we saw, AOV rose by 15% to around 550, partly thanks, I think, to the new categories that are coming in, like electronics, toys, personal care, and even high ticket items like iPhones and gold coins during Diwali, right? I think all these factors together are contributing to the rapid growth that we are seeing in this space. Now, so quick commerce is also really shaking up FMCG sales also. Very, very well-known large companies have been talking about it. Right? I think it now accounts for 30 to 40% of total e-commerce sales for major brands, right? And platforms like Blinkit and Instamart are even increasing their order weight limits. Right? I think previously it was 15 kg. Now they have taken it to 35 kgs in some areas. I think to order larger packs and bigger orders, right? Now, if we look at the breakdown, I think grocery, as we saw, 60-61%, are still leading on these platforms, right? But there's a clear shift to non-grocery items like personal care, health-related products, and also home essentials or office related supplies, right? So non-grocery items grew from 20% in 22 to 30% in 2023. And this clearly shows the diversification that we are seeing in the demand. Now, major brands like Dabur, Unilever, uh, Adidas, and recently Decathlon, and many others are jumping on board. For example, Dabur now gets almost 35% of its e-commerce sales from quick commerce platforms. So that's something very interesting. And all these major companies are keeping a very close uh, eye on this. Okay. So now, why does everyone believe quick commerce has such strong potential in India, especially when it hasn't taken off in many other countries who have tried it, right? So, if you ask my opinion, I think it boils down to our population. But let's break it down and see, right? And let's understand how. First, our urban cities are densely populated, right? Cities like Mumbai, Delhi, or Bangalore have a large number of people, okay, right, living in compact areas, meaning quick commerce services can reach a lot of potential customers within just a few kilometers, right? And as India's economy grows, its digital access grows, which is growing rapidly, and the user base getting larger. I think this is only going to grow, right? Second, I think we have a low rider cost to order ratio, right? And India has cheaper labor. Uh, so, right, uh, delivery riders can manage smaller orders also without driving up the expenses too much. I think this wouldn't be viable in higher cost markets where the labor is expensive, right? And also, I think even now, our supply chain is still pretty unorganized and inefficient, right, compared to more developed countries, right? This means that it's harder for consumers to find what they need quickly, right? So quick commerce changes that, I think, by offering a solution that's faster than local shops and at the same time more accessible than distant retail stores, right? So now let's look at some of the key macro factors, I think, that is driving the growth of quick commerce in India. I think let's start with the big driver, that is the India's growing middle class. So if you see on the left, incomes are rising, right? High income households, I think, have gone from 9% in 2018 to almost 12% today, and it could reach 16% by 2028. So this means that more people uh, have the spending power to pay for convenience. They want products, yes, but they also want efficiency and are willing to uh, pay a little extra for it. I think they don't mind that, right? If they're getting that speed and efficiency, right? Uh, Next, I think it's on the right. It's India's digital boom, right? About almost 58% of Indians have internet access, right? And almost 47% use smartphones. And this number is only growing, right? I think by 2028, we expect over a billion people to come online. That's pretty huge, right? And I think this shift has made speed and convenience a top priority, I think. And that is what I think quick commerce is perfectly suited for, right? I think they are in the right place in the right time. I think yes. So I think third is the gig economy. I think in 2019, if you see, India had only 5.4 million gig workers, and by next year, I think it will be over 11 million. I think, and it could again double by 2029. So this growing gig force workforce is what makes fast deliveries possible. I think it's a win-win. Gig workers getting flexible income, flexible work hours, and consumers are getting their orders delivered in record time, right? And finally, I think uh, let's talk about one of the biggest enablers of quick commerce in India. I think that's the rise of UPI and digital payments, right? I mean, I don't have to even speak about this chart, right? If you just take a look in FY 2017, UPI transactions were all non-existent. I mean, they're just picking up, right? With only, I think, 0.02 billion transactions, right? But by FY24, that number has shot up to 131 billion transactions, right? So the growth is phenomenal, right? But what does it mean for quick commerce? Sorry. So I think digital payments make it super easy, sorry, for people to pay for orders, right? With just a few taps, I think they are done. No cash, no hassle, right? I mean, this convenience is a big reason why quick commerce and many other things in our country has taken off, right? Uh, so uh, all these factors, along with increasing female labor force participation, I think that's around 37, 38% now, combining with other macro trends, is what is contributing to this convenience seeking behavior in urban areas. I think, yes. Next slide. Now, quickly, let's understand the basic model of quick commerce, right? It operates through a hyper-local approach, right? It uses small nearby dark stores. These are mini warehouses, right? Located right within 1-2 kilometers of high demand areas. Like, unlike traditional big warehouses that are mostly on the outskirts, right? So how it basically works is, right, first the customer places an order on an app like Zepto, Instamart, or Blinkit. The order is then routed to the nearest dark store, and the items are packed within 1.5, 2 minutes. And meanwhile, a delivery agent is assigned to pick up that order, who is waiting outside or is close by, right? And he delivers it within 10 to 20, sometimes 30 minutes, right? Uh, Now, in this entire model, uh, getting the supply chain right is very, very important and very crucial, right? Because at its core, quick commerce is nothing but it's also a retail business, right? I think their edge uh, lies in using this real-time data to improve the demand forecasting and getting the logistics right, and the inventory is right, which in turn which help them to reduce the waste, prevent any kind of stock outs, and also deliver in ultra fast time, right? So, what are dark stores? Have you ever seen a spot in your neighborhood with 10 to 15 people in orange t-shirt or red or purple t-shirt, right? Hanging around just in their two-wheelers, I think, right? So that's probably a dark store. Uh, Dark stores are like nothing but mini warehouses, typically around 3 to 4,000 square feet, and they are strategically located within 2 to 3 kilometers of key neighborhoods, right? So this allows for fast deliveries, but unlike regular stores, I mean, they don't have a walk-in customer setup, and they don't have ports or entry gates or something like that, right? So everything is done purely for reaching that efficiency to deliver in record time, right? So I think each dark store is supported by a centralized mother warehouse, right, where inventory is kept in bulk. Now, this mother warehouse or this hub supplies multiple dark stores across the city, right, ensuring they are always ready, right, to meet the demand. Now, the layout of dark stores is designed to maximize throughput. Uh, Nothing but how quickly they can process orders, right? Uh, with this setup, the pickers can move fast, handling 2, 3 times more orders per square feet, I think, than a regular store, right? So algorithms predict demand uh, and adjust inventory based on factors like season or local preferences of that particular neighborhood within that city, and also upcoming events like Diwali or iPhone launch or IPL or various other things, right? Their focus is very sharp, right, on all these things. So this algorithms also help in calculating the fastest uh, delivery routes, so riders can reach the consumers in the committed time. Now, uh, each dark store has around 6,000 to 6,500 SKUs, where the perishables are restocked daily. Perishables like your milk or egg or few things like that, right? Some vegetables, right? They are restocked daily to keep everything fresh. Whereas the mother warehouse will have more than 25 to 30,000 SKUs. So that's pretty huge, right? Uh, Now, when an order comes in, as we are discussing, it's processed in under 1.5 minutes, right? Orders typically include, on an average, about 6 items, with customers within a 2, 3 kilometer of radius, right? And delivery usually arrive in 20 minutes or less, right? Now, the delivery network is flexible too, right? We have seen this guys on bicycles or electric scooters, like handle the shorter trips, while motorbikes or scooty cover the longer distances, right? This mix uh, keeps the cost down without sacrificing on the speed. Now, when setting up a dark store, quick commerce platforms prefer an asset light approach, right, by leasing properties. The initial capital expenditure for a dark store generally ranges between 70 to 90 lakhs, depending on the geography. And setting up a dark store takes almost about a month. Now, most dark stores are franchisees or they are third-party operators, right? But platforms still retain control on inventory, the tech, and the store design, right? But nowadays, platforms like Blinkit are taking on the entire capital expenditure themselves, and a shift from their previous approach, right? Uh, by covering this upfront cost, they're able to maintain a greater level of control over this dark store operations, and they can also ensure consistency across different dark stores and locations, right? Uh, an interesting point in this whole model is that inventory is typically owned by financial investors and not by the platform or the dark store operators, right? This is basically due to Indian regulations that prevent FI owned entities from holding multi-brand retail inventory under the FDI rules, right? This financial investors own the inventory and they earn around 0.5% on the inventory value. But their returns are boosted basically, and they are interested in this model because of the high inventory turnover. It's almost 4 to 5 days. Turnover is very, very high. So I think that's why they are interested in this, right? So now quickly, I will run you through the unit economics of a dark store, typical dark store, which is processing around 1,500 orders per day, right? So for a store with an assumed area of 3,500 square feet, the operational costs include mainly three things. First, the staff cost. Here I'm taking it about 25 employees working across 3 shifts and an average monthly salary of 18,000, right? Second is the rent for the space, calculated here at 75 rupees per square feet. The rent for these dark stores might seem relatively low, but I think that's because they are not located on prime streets. The key requirement is simply that they are on the ground floor and with ample parking space for 10 to 15 delivery riders who can wait outside to pick up the orders, right? So, and the third is utilities and other expenses, right? So now if you add all this up, the total monthly cost will come to around 8.5 lakhs. Given an average of 1,500 daily orders, I think the cost works out to 19 rupees, right? However, this 19 rupees doesn't include the profit margin for the dark store, right? The key thing, the key point, I think, to understand here is that these costs are largely fixed. Profitability depends entirely on the number of orders fulfilled daily, right? To break even, a dark store needs to process around 1,400 to 1,500 orders per day. I think Blinkit is already doing that right now, right? And at this level, the store needs to generate 19 rupees per order to cover the costs. So as the volumes increases to 2,000, 2,500, and AOV also increases, I think then the profitability will start coming in, right? Of course, I mean, if you can do 3,000 orders or 3,500 orders per day, that's ideal. And if dark stores could consistently hit that level, I think it becomes a very, very lucrative business. But I think the reality isn't quite that simple, right? Being a dark store operator comes with its own set of challenges, right? First, there's a limit on growth. Dark stores only serve a very small amount, small 1 to 2 kilometer of radius. So if demand spikes, the platform might open a new store nearby, right? So this means your revenue potential is capped by the area you serve, right? Then there's dependency on the platform. If the platform experiences a slowdown, dark store operators are the ones who will feel it, right? It's a bit like relying on a single client. If they struggle, so do you, right? And operational pressures are another challenge. Imagine processing thousands of orders per day, right? What happens if there's a small mistake, like someone picking the wrong item or missing an item, right? With so many orders, even a tiny human error here and there can really add up and make it really big, right? So that's another thing to look out for, right? And finally, even small variations in commission rates, say getting 17 rupees per order instead of 19, might not sound much, but when you are handling thousands of orders daily, I think it matters, right? So this can be the difference between uh, breaking even and falling short of profitability. So let me ask you a question, right? Which do you personally find more convenient? The Kirana store around the corner or a quick commerce app? Uh, Personally, at my home, we use these apps more often than we should, right? So it's how the habits have been formed now, right? But anyway, let's look understand the key differences between the Kirana and a quick commerce platform, right? So first, there's the product range. We discussed about this. Kirana store will have around 1,500 items, whereas a dark store has more than 6,000, right? Giving customers much more variety. Also, the AOVs in Kirana stores are smaller, maybe 100 to 200 rupees. Whereas as we saw, the AOV on these platforms is about 450, right? Dark stores also have a controlled supply chain, right, which can be very tough for Kiranas to compete with, I think. And I think this is one of the reasons why around 2 lakh Kirana stores have closed recently, right? And with 45% of closures is in metro areas alone, right? Uh, Platforms like Blinkit and Instamart can offer fast delivery and big discounts, right? That Kirana stores simply can't match, right? Now, to address these challenges, there's a push for fair pricing or fair competition policies, right? Uh, the association, I think it's All India Consumer Products Distribution Association or something like that, right, has raised concerns with the government over issues like FDI violations and monopolistic practices by these platforms, right? So, however, Kiranas have something very unique, right? They have that community trust. They offer credit, and they have a very loyal customer base. To stay competitive, I think Kirana stores have to focus on various things, fresh items, different variety of goods, which aren't as easily available online, right? To survive in this market, I think Kiranas may need to adopt digital inventory systems and broaden their product range. Quick commerce, I think, is here to stay, but with the right support, Kirana stores can continue to be an essential uh, part of our industry. And now, very, very quickly, I'll take you through uh, quick commerce platforms, how they're actually making money, right? Their revenue streams and cost structure. So revenue are from three sources. Firstly is the product fees. It's pretty straightforward, like revenue from the product sales, right? After applying discounts. Next, we have advertising revenue. This is a big piece, right? Many platforms are selling ad space within their app, right? Making quick commerce a valuable digital marketing channel for the brands, right? This is a significant revenue stream. So, according to a survey by Zepto, ads alone make up around 4.5% of their total revenue. And as more brands see the value here, this could go up to 6 to 7%, right? Unlike traditional retail, which mainly relies on product margins, quick commerce has an added uh, benefit of ad revenue also, right? And finally, there's the delivery or platform fee, right? Recently, platforms like Zepto and Blinkit even introduced a convenience fee for orders above a certain amount, which was not there previously, right? So all these revenue streams give quick commerce a very balanced mix of income sources uh, that can help them move towards profitability, right? Now let's look at the key costs that keep quick commerce platforms running, right? Uh, the main expenses include dark store operations, last mile delivery, warehousing, and logistics. It's also a very big piece, right? Other costs come from smaller costs like packaging, handling the wastages, support services, uh, and payment processing fees, right? All this is smaller costs, but yeah, it adds up, right? Platforms also spend on discounts and incentives to attract and retain customers, and we have all benefited from that, right? Now, here I've just taken Swiggy as an example. The top three costs are: first is the cost of delivery, a major expense which covers fuel, logistics, and fees for the delivery partners. I think Swiggy reduced this from 13% of their AOV in FY23 to 9.5% now by improving efficiency, right? The next is the variable cost. I think the day-to-day cost like warehousing, packaging, and support, right? This also dropped from 17.5% of AOV in 23 to almost down to 8% in FY25. This again through bringing efficiency in their operations, right? And another one is the platform funded discounts. So discounts are basically used to attract customers, but it can be costly, right? I think they were around 3 to 4% of AOV and now have been reduced as platforms are focused more towards profitability. Now, overall, by cutting this cost, platform will increase their uh, contribution margin and move towards profitability. So, talking about margins, here we are comparing two key performances matrix of Zomato and Swiggy, contribution margin and adjusted EBITDA margin, right? So starting with the contribution margin on your left, this measures the performance percentage of revenue left after covering variable costs like delivery, warehousing, etc. Right? In FY23, Blinkit did negative 6.9%, which improved to 4%, 4.04% in Q1 of FY25, moving into a positive territory. Instamart, on the other hand, went from negative 23% in FY23 to negative 3.18% in Q1 this year, right? An improvement, though still in the negative. Then on the right, we have adjusted EBITDA margins, right? Which reflects earnings after operational costs, excluding non-cash items like ESOPs, etc. Right? Blinkit is almost near break-even here in Q1 FY25, right? While Instamart remains at negative 11.5%, right? Meaning this chart shows that at least margin levels, Blinkit is closer to profitability as it is scaling up, right? Overall, both players are improving, I think, but Blinkit is showing faster progress towards better margins and profitability. All right, so we have looked at Blinkit and Instamart's path to profitability. Now let's break down some strategies these quick commerce platforms are using to get there, right? First, they are aiming to increase the order value by encouraging customers to add more to their carts, like offering delivery for bigger orders, right? They're also cutting costs by sourcing directly from brands and launching private labels, right, which bring in higher margins, right? Next, I think they are trying to add new revenue streams by charging small fees for low orders or running ads for brands on their platforms, right? And sometimes offering subscriptions like Swiggy One benefits, which offers perks like free delivery, etc. Now, operational efficiency, as we saw, it's a very big challenge. If they can be efficient in this, can become a very, very important growth driver also, right? Better warehouse management, optimizing the delivery routes, and more dark stores means faster service and lower costs, right? If these platforms keep executing these strategies well, right? I think they could reach sustainable profitability, right? So according to a Redseer research report, I think this efforts could improve contribution margins by 3.5 to 5.5% over the next 3 years, and that's what the chart on your left shows from which which part of the revenue and cost they can increase the margins. Now, while the journey to profitability is still a little far away, I think quick commerce is already facing some significant challenges and risks that could impact the growth, right? First, there are significant operational challenges, right? I mean, dark stores are essential, but choosing the right location is tricky. Like factors like uh, demand, accessibility, or proximity to customers. All of these impact the efficiency, right? I mean, um, high inventory losses, especially in fresh produce or dairy products, right, can cut into profits due to spoilage or theft or anything like that, right? And now, as quick commerce expands into categories like electronics and beauty, managing logistics and getting a refined product selection is going to become even more complex, right? So we need to watch out how they handle these operational hurdles, right? Like quick commerce is also very much a tier one city phenomenon as of now, at least, right? Almost around 90% of Blinkit's orders come from the top eight cities, right? And almost 40 to 50% is from the north region itself, right? So that clearly shows that the concentration is very high, right? I mean, then also upfront capital required to set up dark stores and warehouses is almost 70 to 90 lakhs, as we saw earlier, right? Which is a heavy investment, especially with fast expansion needed to capture market share in such a fierce competitive landscape, right? Um, Economic conditions are also a risk, right? Inflation and rising costs affect everything from delivery to packaging and labor also, right? Companies face tough choices, right? Either absorb this cost or they can pass them on to the consumers, right? Which might reduce the demand. So we need to keep in mind India is a very, very price sensitive market. So any increase in price or cut down on offers and discounts might take the loyalty back to the Kirana store. So that's something to keep in mind, right? Uh, Regulatory and policy risks, as we saw, are already growing. Uh, Potential regulatory actions could add to new costs, like especially maybe around the labor practices for this economy workers, maybe data privacy or environmental standards, right? So that's another challenge. Now, competition is intense and customer acquisition costs are also high, right? With big players like Flipkart and Amazon entering the space, the CAC could go even higher, right? Putting more pressure on the profitability, right? And finally, I think direct to consumer models and B2B grocery platforms helping Kirana stores digitizing their digitizing and strengthening their competitive edge, right? These partnerships uh, make it easier for local stores to enhance uh, customer loyalty, which might be a real challenge for these platforms, right? Now, we cannot miss talking about ONDC while talking about direct-to-consumer models, right? I'm sure many of you must have felt that a few big platforms like Amazon and Flipkart uh, control too much of the e-commerce market, right? They set prices, control visibility, uh, and use tactics like deep discounts, big billion sale, etc., which makes it tougher for smaller sellers. So ONDC is one initiative, I think, to address that. So what is it? The Open Network for Digital Commerce is a government-backed initiative designed to level the playing field. I think Nandan Nilekani is part of this initiative, right? He has done Aadhaar and various other things. UPI also into it, right? So instead of a few big players dominating, ONDC's target is to create an open network where local merchants have more visibility across the platforms, right? Uh, how is it going to work, right? So it lets customers search and shop across different platforms, right? Similar to how travel booking sites work, right? I mean, they can see options from various sellers, compare prices, and choose flexible delivery options. In practical terms, this means that a local restaurant, for example, could reach more customers without being tied up to just one app like Swiggy or Zomato. They have that flexibility and the freedom, right? Now, what are the benefits of ONDC? Small businesses get more visibility. Consumers have more choices, and it supports the local vendors, right? However, uh, ONDC also has its challenges, right? I think big players might still hold some advantages, right? By lower pricing on their platforms, right? It could still continue to hurt the smaller sellers, right? So overall, I think ONDC's goal is to create a fairer digital e-commerce space for everyone. I think, let's see how it plays out. Now, quickly, some new trends that have and might come up in the future in the quick commerce space, right? One is virtual storefronts, right? Which lets customers step into a brand's space through the application itself, mixing the feel of a local store with their online convenience. Then early morning essentials are also now available. Think milk, eggs, and bread delivered daily, potentially replacing traditional subscriptions and making your mornings much easier, right? Uh, then there are quick commerce first brands, right? We have seen Relish, Leisures, Go Zero, right? Designed specifically for fast delivery, catering to the on-demand lifestyle. So just to give you an example, Go Zero was doing a brand very active on Zepto, was doing 40 lakhs a month before they partnered with Zepto, and now they are doing close to 4 crores. So that shows the potential that and the growth these platforms can bring to this first quick commerce brands, right? At the same time, platforms themselves are adding new categories beyond groceries, right? And we have seen iPhones being sold and gold coins being sold, right? So some new initiatives are also there. Like well, very recently, it was in news. Like Blinkit is offering a 10-minute return policy also on their products bought through these platforms, like directly competing with very traditional players like Myntra, Zara, etc. Right? I think all these trends are making quick commerce a bigger part of our everyday life. Now, uh, quickly, I'll try to wrap up with some key takeaways, right? I think first, the competition for market share is only going to intensify, right? With both established players, actually three, right, and new entrants looking for dominance. Platforms, I think, will have to focus on more on innovation and operational efficiency, right, to succeed in this race, right? Balancing CAC, customer acquisition cost, with profitability will be crucial for sustainable growth, right? Second, I think this is an evolution. This is going to be an evolution and not an extinction for the traditional retail players, right? I think quick commerce isn't. It's not about replacing traditional stores like DMart, but about adapting to the changing consumer trends that we are seeing now, right? By combining their strengths in cost and inventory management with digital enhancements, I think traditional retailers can also survive in this new retail landscape, right? Third, I think the future of shopping isn't just fast; it's going to be strategic. quick commerce isn't only about speed. I think it's about aligning with consumer needs and providing a seamless experience, right? Platforms that can balance speed with thoughtful service, I think, will lead the market. Right? And finally, quick commerce is more than just a trend. I think it's a retail revolution. This model is changing the way people are thinking or doing shopping, right? Moving the industry towards more instant, uh, tech-driven transactions, right? I think it's setting new expectations and reshaping the retail dynamics, right? Uh, Companies are going to focus uh, on getting people to order more and more frequently going forward, right? So, in short, uh, commerce is redefining retail with speed, convenience, and also innovation, right? But its long-term success, I think, will depend on strategic execution, cost efficiency, uh, and also consistently able to meet the customer expectations. Right? I think with this, I'd like to thank you all for joining in and patiently listening for more than an hour for this deep dive into quick commerce, right? And its role in the future of retail, right? I hope the session provided you some valuable insights into the opportunities, challenges that we discussed, and the dynamics of this innovative model, right? So, thank you so much. And with this, I think let's take a few questions and then we will close the session. So I think there's an interesting question with such focus on speed. What is the environmental impact? So yeah, I think definitely. I think when you think about it, all this rapid deliveries, right, often just within a few minutes each other. I think they can really add up in terms of environmental impact, right? I mean, we are talking about a lot of short trips that can create more carbon imprints or emissions, right? Especially if they are using scooters, right? But on the same side, the good news is companies are catching on to this, right? A lot of them are actually starting to use electric vehicles or bicycles for shorter deliveries, right? Which helps cut down on emissions, right? And then there's the packaging part also, right? They are also working on using eco-friendly materials to reduce waste, which is a big plus, right? I think it's still a work in progress. Honestly, the industry is not totally there yet, and the focus is also not there. But I would say it's headed, and they are aware of this. I think, but balancing that instant delivery with speed and being eco-friendly at the same time is going to be easy. But it's something more companies are prioritizing as they plan for the future, right? Next is, will quick commerce service expand to tier 2 and tier 3 cities? A good question, actually. Right now, I think quick commerce is really focused on tier one cities, as we saw in the presentation, mostly because these places are packed with people who often need smaller items quickly, right? It makes it easier and cheaper to deliver within minutes, right? But there's definitely interest in this platform companies to moving into tier two and tier three cities also, right? Some companies are already giving it a shot, right? But smaller cities are going to bring their own set of challenges, right? For example, let's say people might not order as often, and homes are more spread out. That makes it harder to keep up the fast delivery times, right? And of course, setting up these small dark stores and delivery networks is also going to cost money. So I think company are going to just waiting and watching because they need to make sure there's enough demand to make this shift to tier two and tier three cities the worthwhile. Now, uh, it's a really balancing act, testing to see if demand in these areas justifies the efforts and the cost, right? If companies see good potential, I think they likely expand more. But it's really about making sure the logistics work out and that it's worth it in the long run. Yeah. So on DMart, I think, as I said, right, I think it's not about whether they'll get disrupted. I think DMart and various other big retail players, I think they need to identify how they are going to innovate and adapt to this changing retail space. With strong cash users, why don't these companies manage dark store operations directly? I think great question. I think actually, right, Zomato has a lot of cash on their books, right? But even though these companies have cash to run dark stores themselves, managing thousands of locations is no small task, right? Think about it. Managing dark stores means scouting and setting up locations, right? Handling the day-to-day inventory for each one and keeping things running smoothly across multiple cities, right? It's not easy. But when you're talking about 1,000 or even 2,000 stores, that's a huge operational load, I think. Uh, Instead, many companies or these platform guys are opting to choose partner with independent dark store operators, right? This way they can scale quickly uh, without getting stuck in the small but essential daily details of running each store, right? It lets them focus on what they do best, like improving the customer experience, expanding their reach, and continuous innovation, right? While ensuring that each store is managed efficiently without using up all their own resources. How profitable is it to rent out property for a dark store? Okay, I think the rental yields for dark stores can actually be pretty attractive, especially if you own the space, right? I think it's almost like leasing a prime retail spot, but without the need for a high visibility location, right? As I told you, right, it can be in some alleys or back streets also, right? In cities like Delhi, for example, dark stores might rent for about 150 to 200 per square foot monthly. And in Mumbai, it's usually around 100 to 150 per square foot, right? Even in Bangalore, you are looking at somewhere close to 100 rupees per square foot, right? So I think what's interesting is that the demand for dark store spaces has surged by about 40% over the past few years. I mean, clearly, thanks to the rise of quick commerce. But this demand is prompting property owners to set up specifically designed spaces for these operations. Even in less popular or out of the way areas, right? So it's turning out to be quite profitable for the landlords almost on par with prime retail rentals in some of these cases, right? So, one thing to watch out for, though, is the regulatory side, right? I mean, not all dark stores are fully compliant with the local municipal rules, which could pose some risk down the line. But overall, if you are a property owner and looking to lease a dark store, I think it can be a good way to earn higher yields in today's market scenario. With investment potential, does quick commerce? What investment potential does quick commerce hold, and what factors influence investment returns? Uh, I think quick commerce holds a good investment potential, especially with the way it's been growing and improving its margins. I think just last year, I think the combined GMV, which we saw earlier, of all the players combined was around $3.3 billion. And I think it's projected to grow at a CAGR of 40-45%, right? So the growth is there, no doubt about it, right? And considering quick commerce is only a small percentage of the overall TAM, right? I think there's a huge room for expansion. But of course, seeing strong returns on investment depends on a few specific things, right? First off, I think there's the starting valuations and how profitable the operations actually are, right? You uh, really want each dark store to be profitable on its own. If every location can't sustain itself, then the model could struggle in the longer run, right? Then there's return on ROC, return on capital employed. Uh, Basically, you want to make sure the capital that is being invested is generating enough returns, I mean, to justify itself, right? I think so. It's a mix of growth, which we are seeing, efficiency, which these guys are trying, and aligning with what customers or consumers actually want. Right? If these platforms can keep pushing on these fronts, uh, I think we might see it becoming a good investment potential. Let's see if there are any other questions. So there's a question: how do you see quick commerce evolving the next few years? Right. So I think we'll see quick commerce become an integral part, I think, of our daily life, right? Companies will likely expand beyond essentials and start offering more categories, maybe personalized recommendations, right, based on the habits of consumers, right? But I also expect them to focus on profitability, perhaps by introducing higher margin products or refining delivery fees, right, to optimize the costs. As environmental concerns grow, we'll probably see a stronger push towards eco-friendly practices, which we discussed earlier, right? Another trend that I see is the market getting consolidated at some point. As the industries mature, a few key players are likely to lead. I think some might be new entrants and some might be existing, right? But uh, we don't know. They may grow or even merge, becoming dominant names in quick commerce. So I think it's more about waiting and watching and seeing how the things evolve out here, right? Another interesting question: what's the role of AI in this whole thing, right? So I think AI and data analytics are actually pretty essential for quick commerce to work the way they are trying to, right? Let me break it down. Okay. First, I think about inventory, right? AI helps these platforms figure out what items uh, people in a specific area are likely to order, right? For example, if data shows people in one neighborhood order a lot of snacks and fresh produce, right? The nearby dark store can keep more of those items in stock, right? This way, they're ready when the order comes in, and the store doesn't run out of these items quickly, right? Now, AI is also helpful in planning the delivery routes, right? Let's say driver has multiple orders to deliver in a busy city, right? AI will check the real time traffic, map out the fastest route also, so that the delivery partner can reach the customer the quickest way, right? It's like having a smart navigation system uh, that's always adjusting uh, to make the drivers get there in the shortest time, right? And then there's the personalization, I mean, a very personalization side, right? AI looks at each customer's past orders and make recommendations and shows those items on the top of the list, right? So if someone buys milk and bread together, that might suggest adding one when they are buying the other. We have already experienced this when we are buying, right, in various apps, right? It's a way of making the shopping experience faster and more tailored to each person, right? In short, I think AI is brain behind a lot of the planning, keeping stores stocked, finding the fastest delivery routes, and helping customers find what they need. Right, all that data makes it easier for these quick commerce platforms to deliver quickly and also keep customers happy. And that's where the advantage for these players who have been doing this for past 3 4 years, they are going to have an edge because they have the data of consumer habits and spending patterns for the last 3 to 4 years. So I think they have that edge over there. So yeah, I think with this, I'll try to end the session. I think I have almost answered most of the questions. If anything is left out, I'm happy to take it offline also. So thank you again for joining us today. And this is the QR code. You can just scan it for our products and services and for getting in touch with us, right? So really, thank you guys. Thank you for your patient listening, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.